Welcome to the second half of part two of the series on character modeling, talking about in this last part the palette and finally design. All right, let's get to it. All right, so we begin laying in some kind of lighting direction, a bit of some overall values, and I have noticed I've got a lighter value up around her face and her chest, which is partly inspired by the reference and the light direction and the reference, and also I want to make that the focal point. So you'll notice that there's a gradation of values. From the start here, we've got a focal point on her torso, and the values kind of get darker as we get down to her toes. Right now, I've darkened up the arms, but we'll come back. And I'm just roughing it and just sketchy as all hell here, just super sketchy. Just no, not worried about making a pretty drawing. Just kind of feeling my way and laying in the I already know the design of the boots, although I do intend to upgrade them a little bit, like kind of make them a little bit more sophisticated for this model. Now we're starting to drop in the skin colors from the palette that we created earlier, and it's this is where it's going to start to look like something. And you'll notice I am following my value patterns, loosely speaking here, and and it's fine. As I mentioned, you'll notice as we progress here that my painting is super sketchy. I don't blend. I'm not bothered about blending the colors or anything. I'm just laying in big, fat blobs of color. It's a bit like if you were painting an oil painting, you're using your palette knife, instead of your brush. You're just slapping the paint down, and you're not bothered about blending colors or anything like that because the computer, I have a few tricks up my sleeve that Photoshop enables us, some shortcuts to blend all those colors later on. So for now, we can just focus on blocking stuff in. Yeah, so we've got kind of some hints of her overall palette now. I always find the mouth, lately I've been more and more interested in expressions for various reasons, wanting to get away from that kind of that cliche, stern, serious look that we often give our characters because it's typically the bind pose, that the character is modeled in before it goes to rig. But in this case, I want to give her some personality and also a challenge. So, you know, um, full disclosure, my plan B is just to kind of give her a basic expression because I have a time frame for this project. Um, and so if it does start looking like it's going to stretch too far out, then I might tone back and just do a regular facial expression. But um, you know, my goal really would be to do, the perfect world. We're going to sculpt her teeth and everything, and go for the expression. So yeah, just playing, moving my palette around just so I can get at the drawing. Um, yeah, and I'll admit that it looks a little pretty sketchy, um, but I think she's got some appeal. And here's where we touch. We're looking at the belt here right now, and this is actually the beginning phases of design because as I'm sketching this in, I'm just kind of playing with the shapes, right? I'm not committed to anything. I can come back and change it anytime. But I just kind of started to play with, more of an aggressive belt line. I'll show you later the current version of SheUn. The belt's very simple and cartoony, and the reason for that was, it's a comic book, so primarily she's a comic book character, and I have to draw her many times over, so her costume had to be, relatively easy to draw. But now that I'm contemplating building a sculpt, I want to kind of bring it into the real world a bit more. And, because, the computer lets you put a lot more detail in. Um, without having to worry about drawing it over and over. You know, why not leverage that? So we're going to take our SheUn character that we've already familiar with, and we're going to upgrade her a little bit, and play with the design of the belt and the legs. Okay, so this video is getting a bit long. I'll get better at this as time goes on, I'm sure. But I did promise we would touch on design. And so what we're looking at here is a character I designed for a game. This is for the PS2 back in the day. And he's basically a bad guy. He's supposed to be the hero, the hero's kind of boss monster to fight at the end of a major level. The game was about the triad in Hong Kong, and our hero was Jet Li. So here I've done a picture of our villain next to Jet, so you get a size comparison. This helps sell the character. Tells the art director and everybody, hey, he's going to be pretty big and formidable character. But to start, this little mug here was the beginning of him. It was almost like we talked about thumbnails. You could think of this as a thumbnail. It's a quick inspirational sketch. It was just like, I have a vague feeling of my mind of what this character might be like. I emphasize kind of dark shadows. He's mysterious, but, kind of maybe a little cliche, but I put that like white streak in his hair for some interest. And from there, from there, I kind of did this full figure here. Although to be honest, there was more work, more development before I got there. I did play with his face a little bit, kind of exploring the different angles of his face and expressions. And this is kind of one of the final images that I came up for him. And you'll notice these details here, like this belt buckle, this symbol on his arm, this tattoo here, the little kind of rivets down his legs, the metal toe caps, all this stuff. I had to think out. I had to from here to bring him in into reality and make him an interesting character. I put thought into all these different elements, and as an example, this is actually the model sheet. The model sheet is a composite of lots of different drawings, that I put together. At the end of the day, I pick the best stuff, the stuff that's most representative of what I want the modeler to build, and I compile it on a page like this. And so here you can see I've done a little detail of what the belt itself. It's a metal belt, and what the individual parts should look like. Here I did research. I wanted to make sure, make real sure I didn't get this wrong, so I consulted my Chinese friends, and we came up with this symbol for warrior, or this character for warrior, that becomes his tattoo. Little detail about his forearms, his gauntlets there. An example, a real wood example of a buckle, just to kind of give people an idea of what it should look like. And then as you might have noticed in the final concept, we did go with a I think probably what happened is I came up with the skull head, and that was vetoed, and we decided upon a more conservative, real, kind of plausible looking belt buckle for this guy. And so that is what we're going to have to do with our character too. We don't have quite as much to design, but to figure out these legs and this belt, we are going to go off and this is what I did. I actually took my current model, as far as I've gotten so far, and I did a paint over of the details of her legs. It is rough. It's rougher than, to be honest, if I was giving this to another modeler, I would do a sharper looking image than this, you know, I'd clean it up a bit. But since I am simultaneously the designer and the modeler, I can cut some corners, but not so much. You know, it helps to think things ahead, and so I have kind of gone and kind of played with the legs, and I think next time we could talk a little bit about what's going on with these details, what I'm thinking, what the thought process is. But that's probably enough for today. So I hopefully I didn't bore you too much, and I'll catch you next time.